Cardano's ADA is facing a death cross on the daily time frame, and this bearish movement could see the price of ADA drop even further to the downside. In today's video, I am going to be taking a look at what's been going on with Cardano's price action, taking a look at some of the on-chain analysis as well, and sharing my thoughts and opinions on where ADA is heading. Let's get into it. Okay guys, we're going to start things off right here by taking a look at some of the on-chain data for Cardano, and then we'll jump into the charts, take a look at what's going on with the technical analysis as well. So here we can kind of see a bit of an overview for ADA. Okay, it has obviously come down quite a bit. Its all-time high is $3.09. This was back on the 2nd of September 2021. All-time low 2 cents, and that was actually back in 2020. And we do see that we're down 85.69% from its all-time high, and it was 981 days ago. Currently, there are 35,338,629,579 ADA in circulating supply, just to be super specific there. Total supply and maximum supply are 45 billion, of course, that we know. So there's 10 more billion before we can kind of say we've kind of reached the maximum out there. Now, when we take a look at the network analysis here for Cardano's ADA, we can see that this is 4.4 million addresses for Cardano, active in the last 24 hours with 28,000, active addresses that received ADA with 23,265, and active addresses that sent ADA with 20,842. Overlap between those, of course, some send and receive in the same 24-hour period. Now, if we take a look at the transaction details, we can see that there were 46,000 transactions in the last 24 hours. The fees for those were $7,841. Fees in terms of like native tokens, so in ADA it's 16,941 ADA. Blocks in the last 24 hours added were 4,375 and all that kind of good stuff. We don't have to worry about any of the inflation, but really what I want to is the wallet count specifically, how much ADA specific wallets hold, or how many wallets hold a specific amount of ADA, right? We use this to kind of gauge whether there's an increase of large whale activity or a decrease of large whale activity, essentially. So 100 ADA or more per wallet, there's 2 million wallets with over 100 ADA in them. There isn't terribly too much to kind of note from here, other than the fact that it's actually been quite negative over the last 180 days. The number of wallets with at least 100 ADA are down 2.77%. So it's indicating that actually a lot of the retail investors are not so stoked for ADA. Take this up to the 1,000 ADA or more. You can also see a very similar story here. In the last 180 days, it is down 2.19%. In the last 3 months, it's down 2.4%. Okay, but it is up over a 365-day period by 2.61. So at the moment, there are 872,000 wallets that have more than 1,000 ADA in them. Take a look at the 10,000 ADA or more, which is a pretty decent level for a retail investor. This would show us again a pretty flat growth, as in we're up 3.97% in the last year, but in the last 180 days we're down 0.97. Last 3 months down 1.26, and it's pretty flat in the last kind of 30 days, 60 days or so. So it's not showing us any kind of growth at the moment, but also not showing us any large kind of selling pressure where people are fearing that they've made a mistake and they just want to get out and go into something else. You're not seeing that there either. 183,000 wallets with 10,000 ADA or more. We crank this up another level. We take a look at 100,000 ADA or more per wallet. There are 24,500 wallets here that have at least 100,000 ADA in them. That's up 1.86% in the last year, down 0.91% in the last 180 days. Last 3 months, it's down by 0.49, and other than that, it is incredibly flat, as in there isn't a lot of buying or selling activity at the 100,000 ADA level. That gives us a little bit of confidence. Crank it up again to the 1 million ADA level, and you can see that actually this is interesting. It's actually got some growth to it, showing us the whales are accumulating, although it is a very small amount. There are 2,759 wallets with at least 1 million ADA in them. You can see in the last 365 days, it's up by 1%. We can see in the last 180 days, it's up by 0.62%. Last 3 months, up by 0.55%. It has dropped down in the last 60 days by 0.65 and has become very flat since. But in the last 24 hours, it went up by 0.4%. So it does look like there is growth going on here. Let me zoom in and show you some of the most recent. If I can bring this into here, you can kind of see how the most recent price action over February, March, April, and May is showing us with some volatility in the number of wallets that have got 1 million ADA, as in they're coming in and out, they're kind of swing trading in and out, and potentially building their positions slightly larger every single time. Interesting kind of thing to keep an eye on. Now, we could, of course, take a look at this from a dollar value point of view as well, but I do think that that's going to skew the analysis a little bit. You can see here that balances with over $10 million in ADA. It basically just follows the price action exactly. So I don't think this is a good way of looking at the market. I much prefer to look at it through a native token asset. If we take a look at the supply and broken down into kind of wallet sizes, we can see how much of the supply is held within certain sector or certain wallet sizes, right? So, for example, we can see that addresses that have at least 100,000 ADA in them, they're actually holding 27.9 billion. It's a pretty significant amount. Okay, and so we want to kind of be very aware of how this is broken down. And yeah, there's a lot of ADA held at the wealthier side of the argument rather than the retail side of it. So it's going to be an interesting one to kind of see. You can really see that it doesn't really change terribly too much from the 34.95 all the way through the smaller scales until you kind of get up towards that 100,000 ADA. Once you kind of hit 100,000 ADA, you can see that there is a significant amount that is held by these guys. So just be very mindful that, yeah, for the most part, we can see that addresses that hold over 1 million ADA, they hold 22.2 billion of the supply. It's a very significant amount, right? So there's a huge wealth gap here for the Cardano ecosystem. Okay, it has a lot of whales in it. So we want to be very aware of that. In essence, if we take a look at these, you can see that the top 100 addresses have 9.5 billion ADA in them. You can see the top 10% of addresses are 33 billion. It shows you that actually there's a huge wealth gap when it comes to Cardano's ADA. It's incredibly interesting. At least I find it very, very interesting. We can take a look at total value locked. I went through this the other day on one of the walk and talk videos that I did. This shows you Cardano's ADA and their total value locked. Currently sat at $286 million in TVL, right? We can see that 7 days ago it was 289, and we can see that 30 days ago it was 371 million. And you can see how the kind of over time we've seen a bit of a drop here from its $521 million TVL. It has come down quite aggressively, right? But this is because the price action has also come down very aggressively. If we take a look at the amount of ADA that's actually locked up here, we can see that this is holding up incredibly well. Okay, it did kind of spike right up here at 748 million ADA, and we're currently at 639 ADA. It shows us that in the last 180 days we're down 7%, whereas in relation to the last 180 days in terms of TVL in the dollar value, it has fluctuated quite a bit. 180 days was 16% up, but 90 days it's down 23%. In the last 90 days here for ADA's perspective, we can see it's only 7.65. And this is the difference between dollar value and ADA, because we're trying to peg ADA to a dollar. And when you do that, any fluctuations in the dollar valuation of ADA is going to affect the TVL, right? But it doesn't affect the TVL really that much from a native asset point of view, and that's the real big takeaway. It doesn't show you that lots of people are leaving the Cardano ecosystem here. It's only 7%, not 40%, right? If we went through this the other day, it's quite interesting, specifically when you start actually taking a look at it not from a dollar value but from a native asset point of view. Okay, so what does all this mean for the price action? Well, the price action in itself is getting in a very interesting spot. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, we are facing a bit of a death cross here for Cardano's ADA. Okay, so we want to be very mindful that this is negative. We still have and are above our 1.618 from the previous video, this coming in at 38.65 cent. We need to stay above this. If we do not stay above 38.65 cent, then we are in a bit of a bearish movement to the downside under a 5-wave Elliott wave trend, which would take us down deeper, where we'll look for 30 cent, maybe even lower. We will be looking for a relief rally if this were to complete, but it would be short-lived because I'd expect an additional 5-wave movement down towards the 20 cent area. That's something that we want to avoid. There's many ways that we could avoid it. There could be an irregular flat situation like this going on, or we can just break out and kind of be done with the bearish movements by seeing the price rally up higher than 55.93 cent. Okay, so Cardano's at a bit of a turning point, right? We can see there's a lot of negativity here in the price action, right? The price action is lower than the 200-day exponential moving average. It's lower than the 50-day exponential moving average, and it's lower than the 50 simple day or simple moving average on the daily time frame. These are unfortunately bearish things for Cardano that we need to be aware of. What does that mean? Well, it means that we are probably going to see some slippage to the downside. That slippage to the downside is a fantastic opportunity, in my opinion, where we can basically look to dollar cost average and to build out those positions ahead of what happens next, which will be a fantastic run to the upside, in my humble opinion. I'm going to leave this video right there, but do let me know what your thoughts and opinions are in the comments down below. And if you have found today's video useful and informative, smash that like button. I do appreciate that. If you're new, subscribe. And if you haven't done so already, why don't you check out this video right here where I'm discussing what is going on with Bitcoin and why I thought it was going to have a big move to the downside.